For sure. The initial impetus for this film was during COVID. I was home and I started digitizing old home movies, including a plays that I directed out of my parents' basement when I was a teenager, and films that I made out of their basement. And I was finally old enough that I could see the humor of all these 13-year-olds in bad wigs, drinking fake martinis, talking about their divorces. So I became obsessed with this idea of playing adults and kids playing adults. And then the off-screen kid is kind of the one playing adult the most. And it was in a long process. It was, I went down a lot of different roads. And it was a couple of years till I really settled in onto the story that we have.
Yeah, I think everything was as scripted. So the actual video that you see in the film that he watches, we shot after we wrapped the movie. So we knew that, but I really wanted something for Everett to actually react to. So Nicholas and I like got a little space in where the town we were shooting in Virginia and shot like a temporary version of the solo show. And the first time that Everett ever saw it is in the movie. Like I was like, no, I'm not gonna.
That's his actual reaction.
It's so like it's in the like what you're watching is what Everett was watching.
Yeah.
It was.
I remember what you said after you saw it for the first time.
Well,
You were like, "That was bad."
Yeah.
no, I was after I watched it, like the scene, I was worried what the real product was going to be like. If that was just the temporary one, like what is the real one going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could also hear on Everett's mic, his body mic, his stomach churning as the thing's going on.
No, it was literally making him like, it was.
It was, I think Nicholas wrote this and he wrote it so well. It was really easy for me to imagine, kind of take in his vision for it and kind of, we worked together. But so that was a really good start for me. I think I think we just kind of figured out who Griffin was as a person and then built it from there, like each scene by scene, because he's very complex for a kid, especially for a teenager. And so I think, working with Nicholas on that, it was fairly easy and to imagine to try to imagine what he would do in that scene, if it was real, or what he would say. And yeah, I think that was great.
Yeah, I think a lot of the comedy of this movie comes from how seriously these characters take themselves. Brad thinks of his life as an absolute tragedy. So that was kind of the balance of serious and comedy for me was like, well, you don't have to do any comedy. It's just play it like this is life or death, and it's going to be funny because it's so ridiculous.
That was a long process. That was a very long process. We started last February with the goal of having a kid by June. Meredith Tucker and Betsy Fippinger are the casting directors, and they left no stone unturned. They saw about 400 kids for Griffin because we didn't really have a specific, we had kind of an age and height, but it wasn't much more specific than that. And we started in February to find a kid by June, and we didn't get Everett's tape until Memorial Day. So we were really down to the wire, and I was very nervous. And I think I Zoomed with I'm making up numbers now, but maybe I Zoomed with 50 kids, and that became 25, then that became 10, and then it became 3, and those 3 read with Owen. And it was a very easy choice in the end for Everett. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you brought up a great idea earlier, Everett, of not forcing yourself to grow up too fast and sort of you know, this idea of a kid being a kid, you know, and not looking at the world around him and going, oh, I want to be like the older people, you know. That's a because I had the same kind of childhood where I was always, you know, Everett and I are very similar. I was always with older people and friends with older people, and I think part of that is when you're working as a kid as an actor, you know, you just those are your coworkers. So, but you also lose some of being a kid, and when I look back at it, I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't really have much of a childhood. But also there's a kind of through line in the film of communication and just how important that is to communicate with people that you love. And the characters in this film aren't very good at it.
Yeah.
I agree as well.
So I kind of, I don't know, I took inspiration from a couple different things. I have a couple friends like at school, or you know, at home that really like to write. That's what they do. Like, you know, English is their favorite class. All that, like they just love writing. And I kind of, you know, I looked at what they do and how they act and, you know, how they behave and how they treat their stories and their, you know, scripts. And I kind of looked at young Sheldon for a little bit of but instead of him being like a genius, you know, like a mathematical whatever prodigy, I kind of took that and transformed it into art and like him being an artist. And that's kind of where I went from there.
Yeah, and what I'll also say is, you know, unlike Griffin, Everett's a very, very polite, you know,
Very
nice boy from Montana. And I remember saying the casting directors when we cast him, I was like, I can teach this kid to be bratty. Don't worry. I was like, that's the one thing I can absolutely do. So that was the thing. That
My
was
brother already taught me that.
your brother taught you that too, yeah. So that's the biggest difference I think between you and Griffin is Everett's very, very well mannered and so
yeah,
but he went for it, the other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know that I related that much to Brad. But that's kind of more fun almost. You don't, you know, sometimes you don't really want to relate to a character. You find a way to relate to them through the process, but yeah, I mean, it's that's acting. You know, you find common ground with a character, even if you don't really have any to begin with.
You have started dressing like Brad, though.
I did start dressing like Brad and listening to music that Brad would listen to. And I actually, you know, I was very adamant about doing the solo show for real and writing the music for it. And so I guess the kind of creative aspect of Brad's life was something that I really related.
And Owen said earlier, for me, it was just kind of growing up. It was easier for me to make friends with older people. I had like a best friend in kindergarten that was a second grader. It was a big deal for me. And so I think that was always just part of me. And, you know, it was just easier for me to, you know, communicate with people that were older than me. And so that was something that I played off of when I played Griffin.